Thanks, Ron, for embarrassing me. That's much appreciated. I've actually known Ron for a long time, actually probably since I was about 14, and he could probably actually tell you some really bad other stories about me in my youth. So if you ever want to know about what I've done in my youth, I know Ron and his wife very well. Today I'm actually delivering a presentation on using surveillance and how we've been using it in council. I'll be sharing with you some of the stuff that we've done and the learnings from surveillance to tackle legal and illegal dumping. But firstly, get up. I don't know about you, but sitting on those things gives me the sorest ass. I think it's gone flat from 3 days of actually sitting on it. So do a bit of a wiggle around, do a bit of a kick, do a bit of a stretch. Because it's those things drive me nuts. Right. Lisa in the wild. Look, we've been using surveillance to better understand what the behaviour is and who has been doing it and how we can change it. What we learn guides us in how we design and tweak our education and prevention programs. So, what is surveillance? Chuck up your hands. What's surveillance? Give me a couple of words. All right, so the definition of actually surveillance is to closely observe or to watch. So that's what we've actually done in these 3 case studies that I'm going to give you today. So the ultimate goal for us is actually like a clean city. Surveillance is supporting this goal. We still have a bit of a way to go, but we've actually had quite a few wins. Today I'll walk you through 3 scenarios where we've used surveillance for successful dumping and litter reduction. I've got one which is a commercial dumping in street litter bins in 2 of our town centres, and also a bird feeding and litter in our parks, and another one which is residential dumping into our park bins. Our first case study looks at commercial dumping in and around street bins in our town centres. Our night cleansing crews were actually reporting that they were finding business waste dumps in and around our street bins in our town centres. Handling uncontainerised business waste on their runs was inefficient and unsafe. The volume of business waste that we were removing was estimated to cost us about $140,000 per year to tip. Our internal illegal dumping working group developed a plan to tackle this issue with our Clean City approach. We chose 2 town centres, one in an area called Punch Bowl and another one in an area called Saigon Plaza in Bankstown. We began this project in February 2024, and we started just with photos from our cleansing crews, and we also did an audit of the contents of the street bins in Punch Bowl. We also did some visual audits of bins on foot and at different times over a 2-week period. More Lisa in the wild. I'm the big blue smurf at Canterbury Bankstown Council who runs around all day long. We've got a couple of smurfs. We're going to get some more smurfs, but anyway, we're the only ones that wear the blue, and so we're proudly actually Canterbury Bulldogs supporters too, by the way. So we do a lot of work with them. There was an increased council officer present in these town centres, and we did a lot of engagement face-to-face through printed, translated flyers, simple sort of action-focused language and relatable images, and touring with all of the businesses in those areas. A few examples of them up there as well. We've made sure business had adequate trade waste services, correct bin sizes and service frequencies for their business. The regulatory services team hand-delivered some waste in public place guidelines to the businesses and did daily walkthroughs of the town centre and late-night inspections, increasing visibility, and they were doing on-site surveillance. On-site foot surveillance. Data from the audits and patrols gave us intel around the most problematic bins and where to put the cameras. We used trail cameras, which sometimes we mounted them inside shops where business owners were keen to assist, and we also put them up on some council assets. We also installed a Spectre dual CCTV solar camera in Saigon Plaza. It's just some images of the stuff that we were seeing around the bins and who was bringing them there. The majority of businesses did actually want a clean area, and know that cleanliness attracts more customers. Some business actually were dobbing people in and gave us intel on who we needed to actually go and investigate and to stop the unsafe. And we also had a lot of dumping, and we also had some illegal trading behaviour around our area too. We've got a very eclectic socio-economical sort of clientele that work around this place, and this lady here is effectively known as the Pineapple Lady. She was doing all sort of illegal trading on footpaths, leaving absolute piles of mess. We did a very big recon on her through our regulatory guys did a lot of trailing her to actually see where she lived, because every time we actually did find or locate her, no English, a few other bits and pieces, or she'd do a runner into a nearby casino that we've got in our area and spend all the money there all day. Anyway, that's a story for another day. We managed to locate a number of serial offenders with some footage from our cameras and evidence on dump materials linked back to some of the shops. This led us to way better engagement actually with their staff. So we were engaging with some of the shops, but they weren't actually passing this material on to their staff. So we then actually went back and actually spoke to staff members about this as well, taking our translated material with us when we did that. This also sort of shed light on some of the lack of storage for our business bins in our town centres and our waste in public place, particularly laneway bin presentation and bin use, are key focuses for our regulatory services team. We did place up, I think you can see down the bottom underneath the SULO there, we actually did place bin stickers on all our bins with business names, phone numbers, waste collector, the day, time of collection, which was sort of clearly marked on it for us to actually then take action off if the bins were open or if they were overflowing or out for too long. So results. I haven't actually got any videos from these particular ones because some of our videos are actually still going through sort of legal and regulatory sort of things at the moment. So in a few of the other slides, I've actually got some videos that will actually roll through. But this is one of the cameras that we actually were using. It's actually become a nice seat in the area as well. They actually guys sit around it all day long, which is quite funny. So people sit underneath it. I can sit at my desk and actually watch people, walking around underneath this one. But we've seen actually big improvements in behavioural change. We did do about 24 different enforcement actions, all the way through from warnings to pins, which have been issued against businesses for illegal dumping, littering, as well as illegal street trading. Pre and post intervention audits shows a halving of commercial dumping by weight, with an average reduction of 10 kilos down to 5 kilos in and around the public street litter bins, as well as improving town centres with their cleanliness and servicing. Since we've actually done this, we're actually starting to roll this out into other town centres too, because we've had such a good buy-in and reduction in these areas. All right, case study 2. This is sort of illegal dumping in some of our park bins. This trial sort of focused on illegal dumping in park bins. The target hotspot was identified by our cleansing team again. We had issues including dumping of bag waste, uncontainerised material, dumped in and around the bins, and we were frequently over-servicing these bins. We had 3 240-litre bins, and they were getting serviced 2 or 3 times a week, which is way too much for us, okay? Clempton Park, where this actual bin is a heavily used park. Lots of park used by schools, sporting associations and all that, but the sporting bodies actually have their own bins, so these are still being used by other persons. So when it's cricket and there's footy, there's all that going on there on the weekends. It's mostly used by school student, family and dog walkers. The street is a really busy one. This is a thoroughfare through to a industrial area, and also one of our largest mosques in our area is located sort of up the road. Surveillance and intervention began in this area in August 2024. We were using Reconyx cameras. I don't know if anybody's... I'm a bit of a camera geek. Sorry, I'm going to talk sort of the actual cameras that we use, but my favourites is the Reconyx and also another one called an iGotcha one. iGotcha camera has a little solar panel on the top of it, so we were using the Reconyx one to actually show number plates of vehicles or a little bit more definition of cars that were actually coming into the area, and the iGotcha one gave us a wider view for context about what was actually going on. IT. We went through this yesterday and it was working. Huh? Nope, videos. Have you got the one from yesterday? It says embedded video.
Lisa, were you also a video ref?
Yes, I was a video ref. I can't get the video to work. This is actually supposed to be a video. This was actually showing...
Unfortunately, we're unable to get to the play. There's a content restriction on your PowerPoint presentation.
Untrustworthy Canterbury Bankstown Council. I actually went through this. We've got 6 embedded videos in this. Are actually the most important part of the presentation because they actually showed what was actually going on at these sites. But I can give you a bit of a context instead of just looking at a black screen there. I just Dan, any luck? Hang on one second.
No, don't. I see the dance, don't I? Please.
Not going to dance me wrong. I can't do cartwheels and I can't do forward rolls, so yeah, sorry. I'm so sorry about this, guys. Hey. All right, this guy isn't headless. He's actually just blurred out for purposes of the video. But in this footage, this is the type of behaviour that we actually experienced while we're there. This particular guy, he's filling the bins up with bagged rubbish from his car. He's seen going back and forward about 3 times. This guy was actually fined for dumping. We put up motion censored lights with signs underneath them. He even stops and actually looks up at them. Thank you. Gotcha. So this is the type of the behaviour that we were actually finding. People were driving to the park, putting in bag waste or large items in and around the bins that were close by the roadside. Our education enforcement strategy was based on the surveillance intel. We letterbox dropped surrounding residents, about 150 houses, I think, were around there. Some local residents contacted council to discuss what they had seen. Bins were stickered up with regulatory notices. Additional signage was installed with motion-censored solar lighting set up to trigger as people approached the bin. You're going to just flop it to the next one. Yep. He's not headless too, by the way, sorry. Blurred out for reasons. Where am I up to? When we issued warning notices or warning letters to these people that we did see coming to the bin, we managed to sort of pop in sort of additional waste service forms so they could get their extra bins for their services for their home if they needed more space, and where to find the forms online. In the first month, we only issued warnings. And we issued 12 warnings in this time. Once we installed the cameras in the second month, we issued 10 fines. This video here actually captures a couple driving up to the park at night time. They actually have a look at the signs and they actually drive off. So we actually wanted to show you something about that it worked. Of people not doing what we wanted to do. Actually read the sign, got back in the car and drove off. this is exactly the behaviour we wanted to see, and so it did work in the end. We actually captured quite a few of these people, like actually getting out of their car, walking up, the light comes on, they see the sign, and they go, oh, shit, back in the car and drive off. So it wasn't the only one that we saw. We saw multiple people do this, so we thought, well, actually it's working, even though it gave us a really good insight about where to get it. And then we actually found out that they were coming further afield than when we actually did the letterbox drop for. And when we did get back in contact with them, some of them did actually get extra bins for their homes, or then found out where to take it to, a tip or a waste facility. So as a result of these interventions, the improvements that we did see improvements in behavioural change and servicing requirements. Dumping had been reduced effectively, so we were able to take away one bin. Then we moved the bins further into the park, away from the road, and we've only got two 240-litre bins there, and they're only serviced once a week. So we've actually managed to do that by, what's that, 60%. Some of our waste cleansing guys who actually serviced this said, like catching offenders or actually warning offenders and reducing the dumping behaviour really helps them actually keep their team motivated, because they were actually the ones that were actually reporting this and coming back to us, and actually seeing the action sort of led to them actually reporting more bins where this was happening too. So we've started to roll this out in other sites where we've actually had issues with over-servicing of bins. Community is happy because the bins are nicer there, and the park is actually way cleaner now that we've actually moved the bins, and we've got no dumping around them. Since, I think it is, sorry, I'm just looking for my spot. Since the end of December 2024, we've actually had no illegal dumping around these bins. So we've managed to actually reduce the illegal dumping around the bins to 100%. Case study 3. It's one of my favourites, this one. Bird feeding. So we actually also used our cameras to actually observe and see what was going on with some bird feeding issues that we were having in a few of our parks. So this particular one is at Canterbury Reserve. It's a smallish park on a corner block in a residential area. It's got a children's playground and seating. Family use the playgrounds, has a small pergola for picnics and other bench seating. The park furniture is well maintained and mown frequently. The area is mostly single unit dwellings around the area, surrounding it, and West Yaguna Shopping Centre is about sort of 150, 200 metres up the road. It did have a bit of a history of like some dumping behaviour, but we'd only received a few complaints. But this actually became a hotspot from a councillor complaint. The councillor was contacted by concerned residents, complaining daily about the volume and frequency of bird feeding and the mess the birds were causing. Surrounding residents also complained that they had seen pigeon, ibis, rats, cats, etc. at night. So we investigated to see what we could do in this park. So at the beginning we put up a lot of signs, but they got stolen. But we replaced them all before we began surveillance. So we put up more signs. And we placed more signs up in the park. Benches were pressure washed. The park was mown. We did a massive litter pick in the area in October 2024. We still no behavioural change. Nothing changed. So then we began the surveillance in November 2024. Our education strategy in the park was guided by surveillance intel. So we installed 2 cameras. Once again, one a Reconics camera, which actually gave us sort of like, we could actually sort of specifically see what was going on, so if we needed to actually view number plates or cars or anything like that. And then we had the iGotcha one, which has given us the wider view to give us context about what was going on. Signage was also installed at numerous points in the park, as close to the bird feeding behaviour as we could possibly get. Under surveillance notices were installed. We had a couple of signs put up. Sorry, I'll just throw to the next one. Some of the signage was we put up like the bread is harmful to birds' health, which we ended up having to sort of change because we'd catch people dumping in the park or feeding birds in the park and they're going, I'm not feeding them bread. So we actually changed it to food scraps are harmful to the health of birds, which was more broad of feeders that were in the area. We also had officers engaged face-to-face with park users and neighbours, went out on patrol, and we also did quite a lot of like on-foot surveillance, like face-to-face surveillance around the park as well. We reworked an existing anti-bird feeding letter to meet regulatory standards, including all the new litter regulations. Our rangers letterbox dropped to about 60 houses around this particular park. Right, so this is the type of behaviour that we were seeing. He's not headless again, by the way. Typical behaviour we found in the park and saw in this park. Drive by, flinging foods at the birds. There's two views from this one, so this is the more context one. Sometimes they knew he was coming. When people were coming here and feeding these birds, they were not spending a lot of time actually interacting with birds. We found that there really wasn't a lot of interaction with birds when they actually fed the birds. This is our bird flinger. Didn't even slow down. Same man. This guy was a serial offender, okay? That's hence why he's actually he's blocked out and blurred in this. He just actually kept driving down the road. He'd drive on the other side of the road, chuck his food and the container out of his car window and keep driving. When we actually got in contact with this guy, he was like, but I like to feed the birds, I said, well, why don't you do it in your own backyard? Too dirty, too smelly. That's exactly why we don't want you to do it here. Okay, so he was fined for littering because he had actually already been warned numerous times. We had a couple of sneaky Petes, so if you can actually see up there, I think some red circles come as well, some sneaky Petes that come in and sort of waits till the coast is clear, gets out, feeds the birds, leaves a lot of food. A little bit of interaction with the birds, but it's actually not much. It's a bit closer, so you can actually see him a little bit better. Yeah, so look, we've actually seen some improvements in behavioural change in the area. Sort of finding some of the key offenders has reduced feeding overall, but there is still some feeding occurring. The birds aren't as hanging around so much. There's a visible reduction in droppings and foulings that are actually happening in this place because we actually got a lot of people complaining, the surrounding residents were complaining that they were getting bird poop on the car and all over the place in their backyards and in that surrounding area. Our call flute signs have actually been removed and damaged at different times of the project, and we actually had 2 cameras stolen. So sometimes best efforts get thwarted. But anyway, we did actually have them replaced. A metal sign has now been installed in the park as a more permanent solution. The councillors are happy. The residents were more happy we were taking action and that we did locate some really key offenders. They thanked us so far. So in this area, we actually issued 9 warnings. As we said, one person was a serial offender, and we had one fine for littering. That's actually increased a little bit since we actually put this together, but it's pretty close to that anyway. So the key learnings from this, as I said before, when we actually went out and actually spoke to these people about the behaviour that they were doing, we actually issued them warnings and they got back in contact with us, and we sort of said, well, why are you going to the parks and feeding all the birds and you're not even hanging around? Exactly the same thing as I said before. I don't want my backyard messed up. I don't want bird poop everywhere. I don't want all the, the rats and all of the other vermin attracted to it. And I said, guys, that's exactly why we don't want you to do it here either. All right, it's exactly the same thing. This is a nice amenity that we want people to use. Children and all that could not use some of this play equipment because it got fouled on by so many birds. We spent a lot of time having to clean up because of the extra fouling that was happening. And birds actually thrive by actually foraging for themselves. So that's some of the key findings that we found. Yeah, so surveillance gives us powerful insights into what people are doing and why, so we can fine-tune our efforts to reduce litter and dumping behaviours and shift social norms in a positive way. Plus, it gives us solid evidence we need to back up enforcement. Our ultimate goal is a clean city, and we are well on our way. But we can only get there by working together as one big team. So thanks so much for listening. I hope you've got a few useful takeaways from this today, and you've got some different ways you can actually use cameras for, and if anybody anytime needs any tips about cameras and how to use them, please get in contact with me. I'm happy to share info, and I think I've got thank you, but I've got a bit of, for the camera geeks out there, a couple of different sort of views from some of our cameras that we've got in case anyone is interested. Once again, sorry, we have to blur out the number plates for this because it's being shared worldwide. We could actually clearly read the number plates on those. So that one, that's a Reconics one that we use for actually the sort of the number plate definition, so we can actually find out who it was. And the one down the bottom is our I Gotcha solar camera, which gives us, you know, a really large view down the street. It's probably about 300 metres that we could actually see down there, 250, 300 metres. And our lovely one, our big beast that we use, it's just another big blue version of me, to be quite honest, is got two dual, so we've got a big solar panel on the top, two dual cameras, and this one is actually mobile. We can actually move this around, and it never runs out of battery. It's fine. It's awesome. Best camera we've ever got. You could, if you actually zoomed in on these number plates and all that, you could see them with absolutely fine definition. So that's me. Thank you very much.